Welcome to the Kaleidoscope of Possibilities, Alternative Perspectives on Mental Health. My name is Dr. Adriana Popescu. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and leader in the field of mental health, energy psychology, addiction, trauma, and empowerment. In this podcast, we will be exploring mental health from a variety of perspectives, from the spiritual to the shamanic and beyond. What if mental illness isn't everything we think it is? What if everything we see as a pathology is actually a possibility? What else is possible with mental health?
Hi, everyone. Dr. Adriana Popescu here with you today with a very special two guests. It's not often that I interview two folks together at one time, but I think this couple is going to be a great conversation. I'm welcoming Dr. Elsbeth Meuth and Freddy Zental Weaver, who have assisted thousands of couples and singles create lasting intimacy and fulfillment in their lives and relationships. They are featured on Showtime's documentary series Sexual Healing and the Emmy Award-winning NBC show Starting Over. They're the best-selling authors of Sexual Enlightenment, endorsed by world-renowned spiritual pioneer Dr. Michael Beckwith. And they are the founders of TantraNova Institute in Chicago and the originators of June 1st National Intimacy Day. I didn't even know about that. Elsbeth and Freddy have coached billionaires, innovators, and power couples all over the world. They've shared their intimacy secrets at a global YPO conference in the City of Love, Paris, and got nominated as Changemaker at the White House-sponsored 2016 United States of Women Summit in Washington, D.C. Wow. Elsbeth and Freddy are beloveds, husband and wife, as well as business partners residing in Chicago. Welcome.
Thank you.
Great to be here with you. Wow.
What an impressive bio. My goodness.
Yeah, I didn't remember we did all that stuff, you know.
You've done some pretty incredible things. And I would love to hear more about how that came about. How did you guys even discover this word, discover each other? How have you created all of this?
That's a good question. Great. Well, we've had our institute for 25 years here in Chicago and all over. I was first introduced to a large part of our curriculum that we teach when I was very young. I was 13 years old, living in Hawaii, going through my puberty, spending a lot of time in the shower, as a lot of guys are at that age. And well, my father at the time was a practicing psychiatrist and took pity on me and gave me a book to read. Probably thought I was going to hurt myself in the shower, on how to integrate sex and meditation. So I loved it. My girlfriend loved it. And even more than that, I had this dream, this idea, this hope, this deep desire to go on to college on athletic scholarship, but didn't believe I could do it living in Hawaii at the time with the training and the exposure and so on that I didn't think I could get. Well, the practices really assisted me in shifting that belief. I did all the things you would normally do to go to college on athletic scholarship in terms of practice, win games, go to clinics, blah, blah, blah. Went on to college on athletic scholarship. After college, I kept doing these practices and applying these principles in my personal relationships. I was in the software business for a long time in San Francisco. And initially it was fun and so on. After about 15 years, it was just a job. And so knowing what I knew about my own engagement in life and excitement, something was missing. So there was an opportunity that had opened up in Chicago. They liked me, I liked them. They moved me here. That was 25 years ago. I'm still doing the same thing in the software business, marketing. And, so I was single, online looking for Shakti, a female Tantra partner. And Elsbeth's profile showed up. Mm-hmm. I really came here to meet her. I didn't know it at the time. Intuitively, I guess I was led. And so we met. And 6 months to the day, what I call transcended the romantic drama. We pooled our resources and created this work, which we've been doing for the last 25 years with couples and singles all over the world. And really excited to share more about that with you here today.
Yeah, that's great. Elsbeth?
Yeah, my story is quite different. I did not, or I wish I would have had a dad like Freddy's, who would have given me a book on sex consciousness. However, I grew up in a totally different environment. I'm one of 10 children, was born and raised in Germany, very strict household. And so I came to the United States in my late 20s to do postgraduate work in music. And then I stayed on and got my doctorate in education, and then became a management consultant, which I did for 10 years, got quite good at consulting. However, I really felt despaired at the time about relationship, intimate relationship. I had this pattern of attracting unavailable men, and while that was quite exciting in many ways, most of the time I was alone. And I could see the trajectory. If I was not gonna change this trajectory, I would end up without lasting intimacy and love in my life. And I didn't want to settle for that, before I was going to leave this planet. So, and I knew there was something in the way, like around that unavailability pattern, but I couldn't pinpoint what that was, what was in the way for me to create lasting intimacy and love in my life. And so that is how I entered the study of Tantra. I was familiar with Tantra in terms of having read books and done some practices, but I had never delved deeply into the practice as a discipline. So this is what I did, and it opened up so much. And at the very core, what it was for me to get to open up to see, and I don't mean just with the mere eye, like an inner seeing, that I had held distrust towards men. Now, I had no clue. At the time, if you had known me, you wouldn't have called me a distrusting bitch. I was charming, I was open, I was inviting. However, underneath, in the subconscious, something was
Percolating.
yeah, something was going on that I couldn't see. And given that the tantric practice really speaks to accesses the whole being, the physical, the sexual, the emotional, the mental, the spiritual, it's like a holistic way of tapping into yourself. And particularly when we include the primal, the sexual, that is so loaded, with unconscious stuff. And that by accessing that, I could clear the distrust. What opened up instead was trusting myself more, trusting men in general more. And then 6 months later, Freddy came into my life.
Ta-da!
And Adriana, I'm sure I would not have recognized him as a potential partner. I mean, I would have seen him. He's tall, handsome, looks like a basketball player. However, a potential partner is a whole different level of engagement. So I'm so glad that I cleared that unavailability pattern based then in trusting. And I could see him and he was available, so
Here
that's
we
my
are.
story. Yeah. And then, as Freddie said, shortly after, it felt like it was a divine coming together, that there was something for us to create together to make a difference in the world. And that is when we created TantraNova and, have developed it and do it every day, and workshops here in Chicago, online, all over the country and the world. So very excited to be here with you.
Wonderful. Now let's start from the beginning. So what is Tantra? I think people might have an idea. I think there's a lot of misperceptions people have about it. How do you guys explain it to folks?
Yeah. So Tantra, the word literally means weaving. And so I love that meaning, because it's like weaving energy, weaving our reality into being. So there's the Eastern version of Tantra, which is one of the original yogas of the energetic body, as opposed to Hatha yoga of the physical body, the physical form, which we're mostly familiar with. It informs us on how to work consciously with our life force or sexual energy in a way that opens something up. There also is a Chinese version which really works more with using sexual energy to heal our body, in other ways, physical form. So what we've done at TantraNova is we've integrated the Eastern approach to transformation and working consciously with life force, sexual energy, meditation, breathing awareness, and practices, with practices from the West in transformation in terms of generative language, how we create our reality in language, creative self-discovery, how we discover ourselves in the creative process of music and movement and art. And we put a gestalt together, and this is what we put together and been doing for the last 25 years with couples and singles, and really getting and sharing with them practices, somatic practices that really assist one in getting past our own belief or story around something we most deeply desire that doesn't seem to show up.
So this really, I think, is a key point, which is because one of the misperceptions I think people have about Tantra is you have to have a partner and you have to be in a relationship, and it's about like the energy between you. But it sounds like a lot of the work has to start internally within yourself first.
Yeah, a great point. All intimacy with another emanates from the intimate connection with self. When I'm angry, the last thing I want to do is connect intimately with Freddy, because I am not connected intimately with myself. And we are so externally oriented in terms of what we want, in terms of satisfaction, fulfillment. We come automatically. It's not reflected from that it's somewhere available in the outer world. It's an illusion, it's a fallacy. Where fulfillment resides is within oneself. And then I can share this with another, and that can be embellished with another. But it's not going to happen if it's not already accessible over here. So, back to what you just said, the work is deeply rooted in the work with oneself, or in the relationship with oneself on physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual levels. And simultaneously, when couples come, it's not like they have to do first solo work and then can do couples work. No, it goes hand in hand. And in the process, what's also so beautiful is that the work with oneself that then opens up new insights, new experiences, also sometimes being confronted with the very thing that keeps us from allowing ourselves to trust, from allowing ourselves to reveal ourselves to another, which is deeply rooted in oneself. When that opens up and when that is shared, the partner they get to know each other better on minute levels, on delicate levels, on what's the word? Then I
Personal,
feel
interpersonal.
no. I feel vulnerable on vulnerable level. It just fleeted, was fleeting. So that is really, and then just like me, singles come to us. I started out as a single. Freddie was not in my life yet. I went for the very purpose to see what was over here in the way that kept me from more deeply connecting with another that could be sustained, that could last. Um, so it's for singles, for couples, it's for same-sex couples, heterosexual people, bisexual, transgender. It's in energy terms, it's the same, because in relationship with self, it's like a polarity of yin and yang, feminine and masculine within, and then feminine and masculine in the relationship. And that is not all gender based. It's like, if, let's say, I'm in a same sex relationship, there needs to be one in the yang energy and the other one in the yin, because if we are both in yang or both in yin, there is no polarity, there is no magnetism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no balance, right? I think about the yin and yang symbol, right? There's balance, and that's what creates the circle, which is perfection, right? And these are more archetypal energies than concrete, what body parts you have or whatever, right? Or
Well,
what.
it's interesting, in the beginning when we're in the womb, we're androgynous, and then it's decided man or woman for whatever reason. And, as adults, we have aspects of testosterone and estrogen, one more or the other, depending upon your gender. And as we get older, the whole thing reverses itself. Men grow hair, breasts, and women grow hair in their faces. So it's really, how can we integrate this yin yang polarity in the way that we are living, listening, and being in our life? Because in relationship, it changes. Even though you have man, you have woman, but sometimes the man is more following and the woman's more leading, and vice versa. And how can you be present to those shifts and changes and flow?
Yeah. And something really essential in the practice, because even when I go solo to the Tantra work, so Freddy teaches an all men's workshop, I teach an all women's workshop. So we have places where they can choose to just do their own work. The other workshops are all co-ed workshops. There are men and women, couples and singles, and there singles pair up, with we call it a practice partner, to experience the dynamic of that flow of feminine, masculine. The curious thing is that the body doesn't know if this other person is a lover or not. I know it here in my head, but my automatic reactions are just as if there was, a former lover that I just had broken up. So whatever gets triggered is being revealed so that what's in the way can be cleared, and then I can truly connect with his heart because I'm connected with my heart. I can open my sexual center, like for the woman, this is called a yoni in Sanskrit, means sacred space. So there are rituals and there are ways of working with our feminine energy to awaken this. So anyway.
So this is really fascinating. And when I think about, as a psychologist, what might be some of the things that come up for folks in these workshops and in doing this work, and some of the first things I think about are trauma. I think about defenses and protection, or even armoring. I think about attachment issues. I think about, like, what did they, what was in the family of origin growing up? What was role modeled? Can you talk about any or all of these things a little bit, and maybe we just take them one by one and just look at that, like let's look at family of origin dynamics and what was role modeled and attachment style. Maybe we start with that, because trauma is its whole own thing.
Yeah. So, everybody who comes into our classes, workshops, men workshops, women's workshops, fills out an intake, and they basically are putting down some general information. And what's most important is what they want to get out of the workshop. Like, what are their intentions? So coming into the workshop, people bring all that stuff, their family history, their story. I call it the clay we look into the world from. At the beginning in the womb, it was womb service, everything was beautiful. We didn't think about food. Then all of a sudden we're born, some guys are getting their wee-wees cut and bright lights. You think it'd send me back if our brains were developed. And life happens, good, bad, all the family dynamics and so on. And then you get to a point where you want to create something different, something new you've never experienced in your life. So in our practices, we're teaching this yoga, this energetic yoga. Really, the first key is developing self-reflection, what we call the witness state of mind. So one has to be in a healthy enough state to be willing to do that. So like when you're breathing parasympathetically, and we can give your listeners an example of that later if you'd like, but when you're breathing parasympathetically, you have to think to bring the breath down behind the diaphragm. So in that practice of doing that, for most people, about 3 breaths before they get busy and, distract squirrel, so then in that practice, you start to see how busy the mind is in the story making that we live in, and the opinions and all of the stuff that we believe. So once we can start to witness that, and we look at the total felt sense of what's happening energetically, emotionally, chemically, and get a little distance from there, we can start to what we call flatten some of the effects of the old stories around what's keeping us in a spin and from creating and bringing in what we most deeply desire. And then from there, once they get those basics, we start moving towards working with sexual energy or life force energy. And I can get into that a little in a bit. Elsbeth had something she wants to add.
So what you're alluding to, family origin, that is actually where we learn love. Or the lack of, depending on our experience. And you can imagine that when we connect to our intimate sexual primal self, what may come up from the subconscious, which cannot be accessed in talk therapy. Now, talk therapy has its place, but there are other. I think they work well hand in hand, actually. And so tapping into our physical, into our primal self, and there we get to discover what may be over here that keeps us from experiencing the fullest pleasure that we have the potential for, that keeps me from opening my heart and trusting. Because the trust is just like with me, there was something that was turned off when I was 18 years old, when I said earlier in my history of how I came to Tantra, was related to when I was 18 years old, first love, first boyfriend. We had dated for a couple of years. And then he asked me to have intercourse. And I said yes, although it was not, I was not ready for it. It was freakingly painful. Had to go to the gynecologist. The bill went to my house. My dad opened it. All hell broke loose. He called me a whore. The boyfriend left a few weeks later, the relationship, and there I was totally alone, no one to turn to. And in my despair, I made this unconscious decision, which was something like, see, Elsbeth, men are not there for you when you need them. And at the time, that was so. However, then that trailed me into my young adulthood, into my adulthood. No wonder that I attracted unavailable men, because that was further proof that they are not there for me. In a twisted way, we recreate the same thing that we say we don't want. Now, that's a deep journey. So, what I'm sharing here, that was like the result that I got to see and shift. The shifts don't happen in the conscious mind. The conscious mind then follows and, can reflect upon the shifts. I also want to say to everyone who is listening, we don't start out right away with going to the sexual energy. That would be just like too much. So, what Freddie shared is like becoming aware of one's own emotions, of one's stories. And these stories, they are not necessarily right there. We don't ask people, what is your story? No, I just want to have better sex, or I just want to really connect with someone on a deeper level, or I want to bring a beloved into my life.
Yeah, many people.
Or couples may say, we have raised the children, they went off to college, and now the two of us are there, and we feel like two estranged people. We have a great relationship in many ways. We are great parents, we are great friends. But that, again, that magnetism got lost somewhere. So they come with these intentions, and then through the work, be it private work or group work, they get to explore what's underneath. And that all happens without any sexual touching, without, yes, there are defined tantric bodywork practices. They are designed to cultivate emotional intimacy. Sexual intimacy, we go to later, when the nervous system already had the opportunity to shift.
So what I'm really hearing here is the importance from the beginning of creating safety, right? Creating a sense of safety within oneself, which might include, learning how to regulate the nervous system, It might be being able to be vulnerable, all those things. Like without safety, I don't imagine any of this can happen. And when we're talking about trauma, trauma is physiological, it's not just psychological. It lives in our bodies, right? People will armor, their body up. There's an energy to trauma that impacts in every which way, including with beliefs, what you mentioned, Elsbeth, the limiting beliefs that come from having had a painful experience. It really is physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, sexual. It's all of that, social. It's all of those aspects together, and it's all energetic, is what I'm really gathering here.
Yeah, I say we don't shift it like in traditional therapy linguistically, or, we are shifting it energetically. So once one can just breathe in their own stillness and be willing to be led in a parasympathetic breathing practice, they are connected to what they have forgotten, which is intimacy. Into me, I see. Just in the stillness of watching their own thoughts and stories and beliefs and contractions and reactions and old stuff. And there, sometimes things can happen. People can cry, they can get upset, they want to run away sometimes. And the space is available for them to do any of those things. And if they're willing to step through the door, anybody in a body can get it. Because again, it's remembering what we've forgotten when anything was possible. So a lot of the stuff that we've experienced becomes what becomes our clay, our belief, our story, because Newtonian wise, it happened, so it's real. Yeah, it did happen, it was real. But from here forward, anything's possible. So to really get that, to get out of my own belief that, well, it couldn't happen, I don't believe it can happen because it hasn't happened, to begin to let go of that, to begin to move towards the feeling and belief of what I want to create, starts to show up. And after 25 years of doing this with thousands of couples all over the world, with couples and singles, we've seen 90% results for people when they come in with an intention of what they want to create. There are those who this doesn't work for them, and that's fine, because when they're ready, they'll find the right, tool that'll assist them in getting where they want to go. I'm confident, though, working consciously with life force's sexual energy is a unique approach to shifting something deeply. Because when we're in our sexual energy, whether we're doing consciousness work or not, we're more open, loving, vulnerable, receptive. Chemically, we're changed, more endorphins, serotonin, oxytocin, the feel-good hormones. So we're in a physical, chemical altered state, emotionally as well. Now with the distinctions of breath awareness, intention, I want to create something. We get more unmasked to what we don't see in the subconscious, the energetic frequency, in the belief story. And we can start to get a sense of that to then, in our regular day, start to move with a design of, what you're going to be doing, practical applications of moving towards this thing. So the sexual meditation is really, really valuable in terms of what I've seen people get in touch with, because it leads you right there.
So Freddy speaks now about the advanced level where we guide people in. By the way, there is no nudity in any of our workshops or practices or programs.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but we wanted to design it so that, the average person who is not accustomed to that would want to come and get this.
Yeah, back to feeling safe.
Yeah.
Because without feeling safe, nothing can open up. You brought this here to the table. And feeling safe has to do with trusting. Trusting myself, trusting that I allow the other to touch me, to be open to it. Another aspect for feeling safe is created also through having distinct roles of giver and receiver. And we don't mix these roles up. Unlike mutual lovemaking, where we go back and forth. At some moment, I may be the receiver and then the giver, and vice versa, which is wonderful. However, in the roles assigned and in the rituals, be they energetic rituals or be they sexual rituals, we stay in these roles. Imagine being in an energetic healing, which is not about any sexual touching. It is the opportunity to clear something energetically. One is the receiver, the other is the giver. And then in the practice later on, we switch, but we complete one ritual in the entirety. When I'm in the receiver role for an hour, what may available to me to open up, to let go, where I don't have to hold on anything anymore? Something that couldn't open up in 5 minutes. It takes time. It may need my body to just relax and shift, from one state to another. And the giver's role is to be there totally. He or she is not there for their own gratification. Now, that doesn't mean that it may not feel wonderful to the giver, to support, to massage, to listen, yet all in service to the receiver. And that is how we create further that sense of safety, that space of being heard and listened to, the space where I can ask for something without having to be concerned about his feelings.
And of course, in the workshops, the giver is taught their roles, the receiver are taught their roles. So they really have a protocol to approach this working with sexual energy in a unique way. I mean, this is how we came into the world, and forever we've been procreating, creating life, the last 100 or more years, recreating with the development of contraceptives. And so what we're sharing is and teaching is how to co-create with this creative, energetic intelligence, because it is unique. I mean, it was creating life before we had language. It creates life. It's pleasurable when we're in it. And when we bring consciousness to that energetic manifestation, what starts to show up, interesting enough, outside of the sexual are creativity and pleasure. The listening shifts. So instead of saying, well, I hate my job, 30 more years of retirement, when I've been in this intimate vulnerability and the deep listening, the cascading effect of that conversation or that internal narrative doesn't hunt anymore, because I can start to see the shifts energetically. So we start to enliven our whole lives everywhere. If it's anywhere, it's everywhere.
Yeah. It's really such a comprehensive system. It is quite spiritual in that sense. And it's reminding me how how a lot of people think of yoga as just like an exercise. You go to the gym and you do a yoga class to like, strengthen your body or whatever. So but true practice of yoga is so much more than that. I feel like this is the same what we're discovering about Tantra here. It's not just about sexual energy and better sex. It's like about everything. It's about safety. It's about spirituality. It's about mindfulness and consciousness. And then, like you say, the effects like trickle out into all different areas of your whole life and relationships and everything. Right?
Exactly. Yes. If it's anywhere, it's everywhere. That's right.
And they come from the same origin in terms of tradition. You know, like yoga for the physical body and yoga for the energetic body, they came out of the same thinking, of the same evolution.
Very old cultures trying to figure it out.
Right, and exactly what you just pointed out here, Adriana, it's the integration of the physical, sexual, emotional, mental, and spiritual cosmic self. I also like to call it the primal and the cosmic, the earth and the heaven, the sexual and the spiritual, traditionally seen as dichotomous, that, yeah, we are not promoting now bring sex into the church or the synagogue or the mosque or the temple. However, what we are saying is that this temple over here can become reintegrated. And when we reintegrate these four dimensions, sex, love, mind, and spirit, we not only feel more integrated, we feel whole. So coming back to wholeness,
But there were tantric temples, but they got wiped out by the Crusades. But I don't know which would have been more fun, to be hacked to death or killed to believe something, or be in a sexual experience with the higher levels of consciousness.
Oh boy.
So and I want to point out that it has this work, this opportunity has the potential for healing, like from sexual abuse. From, in my situation, I was not sexually abused, but there's something was happening that really had me close off my heart. I became quite promiscuous afterwards. So, like looking for love through sex, which actually doesn't work, through the tantric healing for me, I reintegrated my love self and my sexual self. They are distinctly different in terms of energy frequency, and they work beautiful together. And I think to a big extent, it's humanity's wish, most people's wish, to bring this into their life. So
Yeah, in a bigger conversation, in terms of our consciousness and evolving, it's like until we stop the vilification of the sexual, can we make that spiritual quantum leap to see ourselves in each other? And for the man in Tantra and all the variations there are, one of the primary edicts is for the man to learn to separate ejaculation from orgasm. Now, a lot of guys have heard that about Tantra and they think, oh, I'll be a better lover, I'll last forever, and it'll be some kind of great awakening. It's a yes and both and. Because once a guy starts to bring consciousness to that ejaculatory reflex, in the practices that we teach and the way that we teach it, he gets in touch with the unconsciousness around the sexual piece. Because for guys, there's two emotions that we're socialized to be okay to show. That's, excuse my French, fucking or fighting. But intimacy and nurturing and tenderness is like, don't do it. That's not being manly. Yet we have all the feelings. So when we're in that 3-second orgasmic moment, we're free from all of that. So when a guy starts feeling that and it's right there in front of him, you can see it. It's not like a woman where it's internal. He wants to connect. So for the woman, oftentimes it feels like just selfish love. It's like, lust. You're just in this for yourself, when really he deeply wants to connect. So once he starts to learn to separate ejaculation from orgasm and move the life force of sexual energy up to his heart with breathing and energetic awareness practices that we teach, he starts to transcend the lust, the unconsciousness, the possessiveness, the jealousy, the shame, the fear, the guilt, all that stuff it's loaded, the sexual. And so he starts to free up, and there becomes possible that polarity we talked about earlier. Now, for the woman, it's different.
Okay, let's just pause here for a moment,
Yeah.
because just also for the listener, it's like when Freddy speaks about separating ejaculation from orgasm, this combination in terms is not familiar to the Western mind, because we think in the West that ejaculation and orgasm are the same. They aren't. Orgasm is a sensation. Ejaculation is a reflex in the pelvic floor. So in Sanskrit, the penis of a man is called lingam, Lingam. Lingam means magic wand or wand of light.
Oh, much more endearing than dickhead.
Definitely. So there is a muscular ring around the base of the penis, the magic wand, inside. And on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the ejaculatory moment, around 9.5, 9.75, what happens is that the scrotum pulls up, that ring starts to quiver, all in service to eject the ejaculate. Once the ejaculate is gone, the energy is gone.
Refractory.
So in the tantric practice, a man learns how to channel his wonderful testosterone, lively energy up the channel from his magic wand into his heart. This is how he becomes more connected. Guess who feels it if he comes from his sex or from his heart? It's me. When he comes from his sex, I don't feel as safe. Now, there may be moments when we want to both have lusty sex, totally great. There are other moments when I want to be heard, when I want to connect, when I want to know he's there for me. And so that he has the capacity to move up this wonderful testosterone energy into his heart. Once his heart opens, oh, I feel that. And once my heart opens, guess what? My yoni, my sacred space opens. And then we have a circuit. And in the tantric practice, we want to cultivate the circularity of course, it starts over here, circulating my energy up and down, both, when my energy is subtle, like right now, we are in a subtle state, at least.
Well, speak for yourself.
I assume you are not aroused that. So, and then in an aroused state, I can learn how to breathe that arousal up into my heart, into my third eye, into my projects that I create in the world. We can use that energy to fuel,
to transmute
our actions in the world, just as we learned to harness electrical energy 200 years ago. We can learn to harness our sexual energy.
Yeah.
And then the circularity in partnership, because when we circulate energy and synchronize our breath, we feel we become one. There is a connection, a synchronicity that is superb.
Amazing. I did want to ask, I'm glad you guys have gone here. I did want to ask your opinion about what you think the impact of pornography and how available it is everywhere all the time, with this. I'm really seeing something very different with kids that have grown up with that being available, and especially young men developing a sexual identity based on watching and masturbating to a lot of porn. I'm curious as to what you guys see in your work with folks and this particular issue. And it's addiction too, because I think, part of it is that with the porn, now we're seeing all this addiction to it. So yes.
Yeah, I think it's part of the process. I mean, before it was hidden, you could see it in a magazine and you could sneak it in the closet and so on. But now it's everywhere, on your phone, on your computer, it's everywhere. And I think it's part of the process of getting past what the sexual is for us, because we have marketed it, we've sold it, we've misunderstood it, and now we're just gorging ourselves with it because of the feel good, right? And so at some point when people have had enough, it's like, okay, you want to eat McDonald's, go ahead. And then you realize, oh my God, my arteries are clogged. Then it's like now we meditate. Oh, you could do sexual meditation. So it's like setting the groundwork to then get past the unconsciousness about the sexual, to now bring some consciousness of what we can do in this altered state of awareness that happens in it. And that's part of the agape that I think can happen in the world. So I think we're kind of moving through, and that time will, I think, open up to a lot of the stuff we've been teaching and what other people are teaching and what's out there.
Yeah, I just feel that there is no guidance for young people and young adults to connect with themselves in terms of the sexual. Even our sex education in school is very clinical about where the ovaries are and, perhaps the condom, which is not unimportant, which I think is really essential that adolescents learn about that.
But breathing and sexual meditation is not ever even mentioned
or taught. What we are talking about here gets beyond sex education. We could call it intimacy education that involves the whole human being. And so porn is just like with the sugar or, alcohol, or that given the dopamine that is being generated in those moments, and then we want to go back because it feels so good, and then we go back, we need more in order to have the same effect. So we do have some clients who come with that, although that's usually not revealed in the beginning. It then may come out over time when they have learned to connect with themselves in a new way. And then the question is how to shift habits and how to connect with the self so that a human being can access his or her own pharmacy. It's more prolific amongst men, pornography, than amongst women. We also speak about, like, for men, what's there, the opportunity and challenge is to learn to channel their life force, sexual energy. For women, it's about reawakening the energy. It has to do with that feminine energy is based in estrogen. It's the slow hormone. It makes us round. masculine energy or that sexual energy is based in testosterone, the quick hormone, directional outward. And so the outward, the directional, wants to be guided. And for a man to apply himself to forego the ejaculatory reflex takes quite some willingness and commitment to create a new experience.
It's like, what if men, or particularly young teens, when they were coming into their puberty, were taught the sexual meditation? So they were taught how to use this new energy, and they were taught it's not masturbation and not like in the closet and not like don't tell anybody, but like how you can learn to breathe, be aware of energy, use it as a way to empower your studies or your dreams about what you want to create in your life. And that would be a new way to approach working with what happens for us anyway. Instead of stumbling into unconscious pregnancies or STDs or any of the kinds of things that happen now in the sexual, we could then begin to move beyond the unconsciousness that we are now in terms of, I mean, there's war everywhere. I mean, you look at a bigger picture of the world. And
we actually had a youth program for several years, a few years. And we had teenagers like 15 through 18-year-olds come to these programs. And it was amazing how the guys picked it up.
Yeah, it's funny. So we had girls and guys in the practice, and some of the parents had been through our workshops, and some of them had not. And it's a 2-week program. So after we kind of got through with the emotional awareness 2 days and some of the breathing practices, we separated the guys and the gals. So I have like 8 guys in this room, and I'm saying, okay, so now we're going to put together the breathing, meditation, and some of the muscle exercises that we've been learning into a self-love practice. So by a show of hands, how many of you guys masturbate? Nobody raises their hand. I'm like, I'm over 50 and I masturbate. They all laugh and they raise their hand. And so I tell them and show them how to separate ejaculation from orgasm. And this is their homework practice. I use the prop here, and they, okay. So they go home, and one of the main things is not to ejaculate. They go home, they do this, they come back like, man, I never knew I could last that long, or I could really start to feel this energy move up. And I believe these are going to be better men as they become older people. They're not going to be eating their woman with just like, I've got this erection and it's your duty that I've got to get rid of this energy, or I'm going to have blue balls or whatever the stories that they learn. Yeah, but they will learn to move their own energy, meet her at her heart, and then she can open and choose. Yeah, it's not led by the lingam or the penis.
Or just for themselves, because that drive leads them to things like porn.
Exactly.
And there's nothing inherently bad about porn.
It's just unconscious.
It's it's that it's we no longer have freedom of choice once we are so into it.
Choices.
The other thing is also that, whatever is portrayed there is often far from how we actually relate in a connection with another. So, that is also. And then the expectations are being built up for, like, it should be like a porn scene when I make love.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Right.
And we're not making porn wrong. We're just saying to have it.
No. It's having a huge impact. I think we have to talk about it because it's happening. I mean, it's showing up in my office. All these couples are coming where one partner is now become addicted to porn. Well, what's going on? Where is this coming from? So it's a real topic of conversation. And I appreciate that you guys are being just so real about it and being honest and open about it. I feel like we could go on and on for hours on these topics, and I'm seeing the time and realizing we have to start winding it down here. Tell us a little bit about your book, about how people can find out more about your work.
Great. Thank you so much. So if you like to learn more about us, just visit TantraNova.com, TantraNova.com. And there on the homepage, there's also, when you scroll down, our book. It's called Sexual Enlightenment, How to Create Lasting Fulfillment in Life, Love, and Intimacy. It's a great introduction to learning more about Tantra. There are also practices in the book that we share, and further about what we share today about particulars in terms of male sexual energy and in terms of feminine sexual energy. And also, how that gets developed and the connection with it. So, Sexual Enlightenment, you can also get it in audiobook. It's both hard copy and audiobook available. And yeah, that is, and if you want to reach us, you can do this at TantraNova@tantranova.com, or leave us a message on the website. And you're welcome to have a conversation with us and learn more about what could be in store for you.
Love it. And one last question, quick here. If you could see a change in the world, like what it would be your vision? Like what's your mission with doing this work? What would you like to see change?
Wow. How about peace on earth? It's just a thought away. And that, it sounds like ridiculous. And yet I know that when we do this work and we're in a group with people, what's possible. And so that we continue to, expand our consciousness and learn and practice seeing ourselves and each other.
Yeah, for me, it's really the vision that I declared in 2001 with the idea of creating a Tantra Institute in Chicago. At that time, yoga centers were not at every street corner. It was a very different environment 25 years ago. But I had that vision after my Tantra teacher training and opening, yes. And that the same year Freddy came into my life. So the vision of bringing that sexual spiritual unity into the world as a possibility. And of course, it happens one person at a time, one couple at a time, one group workshop at a time. So at times it feels like, it's just like, a little drop in the ocean. But then if the people who come, they shift their energy, they transform their relationship with their sexual self into being,
powered by
and fueled by the energy that ultimately is love energy. But that needs to be reintegrated, So that is my vision for the work, to open that up, the sexual spiritual union within and then with others.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so much for being here with us today. You're such a gift. What you're creating in the world, it's much needed. I share your vision with you. So we'll put all the links in the show, in the notes. And if you've liked this episode, please do reach out to Freddy and Elsbeth. And if you've liked this episode, please do share it, get it out there, comment, like, rate, subscribe, whatever, all the things, so we can get this information in the hands of more people. And we'll be signing off for now. See you next time on Kaleidoscope of Possibilities.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of Kaleidoscope of Possibilities, Alternative Perspectives on Mental Health. This has been Dr. Adriana Popescu. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe and share with others. To find out more about me, my guests, and more, please visit my website at adrianapopescu.org. See you next time.